impacted immigration such that many immigrants fled the state of Florida because of fear of deportation. Upon doing so, we saw a really big uptick of black people like starting to take the jobs of construction.
And I have told the Democratic Party to their faces, if you want the black vote, hire black people.
So at the time, yes, there was unprecedented crime, the epidemic of drugs and things like that, and violence and gang violence and things like that was actually impacting the black community.
Black on black crime.
Right. Well, I hate that phrase, but yes, the wealth gap increased under Obama's presidency, meaning that over that 8-year period, he did nothing to alleviate that.
I appreciate Marcel for what he is doing. I appreciate that he is running for office and that he is sacrificing himself to do that. That is hard work.
Right.
But in the vein of trying to get people to agree with you and persuade people, it is not necessary to devalue them and make up things. And this is just what I've seen, you know, and he's gonna, want, well, where's all your evidence? There's so many red flags. It's so much misinformation and disinformation that I would literally have to spend my time online marking and writing down every single issue that he is talking about. What I do is that when he says something that I don't agree with, I'll say something. But for the most part, I share his thoughts. I share his ideas about reparations. I share his ideas about running for office, about participating in the parties. He actually has registered with a third party.
Right.
I am down with that. And I believe that we, as a group of people who feel like we are disenfranchised, which we are, feel like we are not being heard and we are not receiving the benefit of all the other groups, we have to learn the game and we have to learn the party language and speak it better than them. It's not difficult. It is not difficult.
Okay, so one, I agree with what you're saying. And I think even in that conversation with Marcel, I think we might have a difference in some opinions, but more so a difference in prescription. But I think we share the same opinion. I agree with him, like largely about like how absolutely problematic, the absurd levels of immigration that we have, like how damaging it is for the country as a whole and how damaging it is specifically for Black Americans. No disagreement there. I think I agree with him on the atrocity that is the Democrat Party and how they have continued, in my opinion, to practice benign neglect. I feel like they've done a big portion of kind of stringing us along, and they haven't given us the tools necessary to actually compete collectively. Obviously, individuals can always compete because it's incumbent on every individual to do the work necessary to climb. But so again, I mean, I can understand his viewpoint. That makes sense to me. I think the prescription is where I think we really fall off. Like, I don't understand how understanding that information leads one to say I'm pro-Trump. I mean, unless, which I think he pretty much expressed, he's what we would call a single issue voter. He's a person whose only idea behind his vote is, I want to curtail immigration and I believe Trump will do it. That's his entire platform. But I think while that's an important issue, I think it's short-sighted to believe that that alone is enough to garner a vote that has all sorts of other strings attached to it. And I think that's where we disagree.
Yeah, and we're not going to all agree on everything.
Right.
But I just think it's just disingenuous to, use strategies to devalue the words that people are saying.
Sure.
Because it's not in agreement with what you're trying to put across.
Right. I feel like in that moment, he was absolutely trying to win more so than he was trying to understand. Because I think even when I was making the appeal that like, hey, like I said this phrase, which I stand by, but I think I can expound on it and give a qualification here to where I feel like this is different. And he was just like, nope, you said this. And it's like, that's not a genuine conversation, because in a genuine conversation, you realize that there can be addendums, there can be like small changes. There's all sorts of things that are happening in a conversation, because I'm not literally giving you the breadth and the scope of everything that I'm saying around this issue.
Because of the space that we're in.
Right. But again, that's his prerogative. My intent when I join spaces is to educate, inform, and to dispel misinformation. And so I feel like in that vein, it's like I'm not trying to win against you. I just want all of the listeners to know the truth, because if for someone to just say, oh, we've had stop and frisk all around the country, and it's like, no, you don't know how atrocious stop and frisk is to be able to make the statement, no, everywhere had stop and frisk. You don't know what stop and frisk is. Well, for racial profiling is stop and frisk. I don't think you know what that means. The crime bill is stop and frisk. That's not what stop and frisk is. And it's like, okay, so you're just kind of playing at those buzzwords. That's what it feels like. And so I feel like I have to dispel that type of misinformation.
Right. I agree with that. And as far as mass deportation goes, how is that going to help us when we still have racism and discrimination? They're not going to hire us anyway, even if they had zero Mexicans.
Well, I think I tend to disagree slightly.
They want to hire because of our intelligence.
Sure. Because
they can't pull one over on us. That's just our culture. And we are excellent people. That's been my experience. Most of us that are endeavoring to be in a professional realm. So I just have a little problem with somebody saying I'm going to mass deport. Well, who's going to be farming and who's going to be cleaning the hotels? And that is not racist. The majority of the workers are Hispanic, and they are talking about mass deportation of Hispanic people.
Absolutely.
You're not talking about the others.
Let me ask you a question, though. Before those jobs became primarily Hispanic, who occupied those jobs?
Black people did.
So, do you feel like if Hispanics weren't competing for those jobs at driving down the wages, do you feel like those jobs would offer competitive salaries that Black people would be willing to do?
First of all, we are overqualified for that.
Not all of us.
I would say not all of us, but most of us. I give us a lot of credit. I do. It's just been my experience.
Sure.
And so to speak to that, they push Black people out because they don't like to supervise Black people. We are too excellent. We are overqualified. We do our jobs in excellence, and it makes them look bad. And I have had that experience myself. Whereas I made an employer look bad because of my excellence. Yep. So guess what? I was attacked and I had to go.
Happened to me.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about.
I've lived it. But okay, yeah. So here's the thing, right? I think there's always going to be a pretty big stratum, right? Where different Black people are going to fit in different qualifications, right? There's always been, just like there is for everyone else, there's an upper class, a middle class, and a lower class for all people. And so I would say for Black people, there's obviously still an upper class, a middle class, and a lower class. I think more of us disproportionately fit within the lower class because of the ongoing systemic oppression. But with that being said, gainful employment is one of the most necessary tools to create the environment that a family can thrive in, such that they can ascend the economic ladder. And so gainful employment being one of the number one things, if we understand factually accurately that there are a disproportionate exceeding number of Black people that are still living in poverty, then those people wouldn't necessarily be overqualified for those jobs. I would say that they might be overqualified in potential, but the potential has to be realized. And if it hasn't been realized yet, then those would be those jobs. And so if we're seeing that the jobs that were typically done, housekeeping jobs, were Black jobs, right? When it came to, like you said, agricultural work, that was largely a Black dominant job. Lawn care, lawn services were predominantly Black jobs. And so when Hispanics have come into these industries and taken over all of these jobs, the vast majority of the service sector were Black jobs. And now we're finding that the majority of immigrants, of Hispanic immigrants, are occupying those spaces. And we know that because of the fact that they are immigrants from other countries where wages are lower and so on and so forth, and the substandard living conditions that they're willing to live in while they're here, like sometimes living 3 and 4 family in one individual unit and things like that, they're willing to subject themselves to that in order to provide opportunities for their families. But because we are not willing to subject ourselves to that, because quite frankly we built the strongest and most powerful country in the world, so we shouldn't subject ourselves to that. But since we are not, then that means that they go ahead and occupy that job, and that wage stays well below what it should stay at, and then we're discriminated against even if we do want to work in that place. So then the idea becomes that mass deportation would probably open up those jobs such that they would have to be hired by actual citizen workers, and whom a lot of would be Black. We saw something like this similarly happen in Florida when Ron DeSantis passed like really, really great legislation. I don't want to call it great, but really powerful legislation, that impacted immigration such that many immigrants fled the state of Florida because of fear of deportation. Upon doing so, we saw a really big uptick of Black people like starting to take the jobs of construction and things like that they had otherwise been being blocked out of and discriminated against. So I do believe it would have a positive benefit on Black Americans. Now that doesn't, of course, I agree with you, because you made the statement that won't get rid of racism, and it won't. But I think I don't have to look at those two as the same problem. One problem is competition within the workforce with a limitation on resources. And that's what I think that the immigrant problem has on Black people. And then the second one is the greater problem of white supremacy, which I think is also present, and getting rid of the competition and low wage earners with a limited resource won't fix the problem of white supremacy. But these two things working together concomitantly have a much greater impact on the lives of Black Americans. So I would say mitigating one of those things would still overall benefit us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, and that's why data is so important, because the things that we're talking about have a number to it.
Right.
And so when you utilize the data, then you're able to make an informed opinion about what really is going on. And so with that, I understand that, and that's an education for me, because sometimes we're in professional spaces and we forget.
Right.
We forget.
I totally get where you're
going. And we have to be reminded that this is how it is hurting some, a segment of our people are being hurt. But the disparities, that data is there.
Right.
The disparity data is there. Everyone can see it, and we know what is going on. So there has to be some type of immigration reform. I don't know if I believe that there's this influx of all of these immigrants and they're all taking benefits and they're all being able to vote. I don't know about that.
Some of that's absurd. I agree with you.
Yeah. And for Marcel to say that illegal immigrants are allowed to vote, you're illegal immigrant. You're allowed. I don't know.
Right. Oh,
I don't know about that.
there's a few local incidents, right? I think in the state of New York, in the New York City area, I believe they had some things where they were allowed to vote on local elections. I think as it stands now, of course, they can never vote on any federal elections, but they were able to vote, I believe, on some local and state elections.
I see. I have to see. I have to see that.
Right.
I have to literally see the documentation.
For sure.
Because you cannot just go out there and say that and you have no documentation to prove. Here you go. Here's a stack of illegal immigrants that voted, because the Secretary of State would have that information. And so that is the person that we should be talking to. The Secretary of State, do you have illegal immigrants voting? Please give us the data on that. And as an elected official, as a citizen and a voter, I would ask my elected official to please find that information out on me. Guess what? If I did that in writing, I would get a response back from my elected official. And that's what I was talking about on the space today. We don't do those things. We don't make the calls. We don't make the appointments. We don't write. We don't engage. How do you get your ideas across if you're not engaging or speaking to the elected officials or their staff? How does that happen? And it doesn't happen on Twitter. They might listen to the buzz on Twitter, but we do not represent the voting. We don't represent the voting community. You don't know who's voting on Twitter, who the voters are. Are they registered? You don't know. You don't know who you're talking to. That data has to come from communicating with the legislators.
Right.
And I wish people would understand that we are wasting our time actually on these spaces when we should be organizing. When I leave a space, I should be given CJ, I would like for you to write so and so and so and so, and then get back with us. Or I like you to register some voters, knock on some doors, make some phone calls, and then get back to me. That's what I had to do.
Right.
As an organizer, I literally had to go to the district that they said go to. I had to talk to the people on the list, and then I had to come back with the data. This person said yes, this is a registered voter at this house. They said no. This person said yes. This person said they're not coming to, they're not voting. This person, this and that. They use that data to then organize the people into a percentage that will make their policy possible.
Right.
And I'm sorry if I'm all over the place, but
you're okay. It's a conversation. That's fair.
We just don't know. A lot of people just don't know what it takes. But don't act like you do. And that the Twitter Spaces is the place for us to complain. That's it.
Right. Okay, look. First off, I 100% agree with you. I feel like, first off, I shared my screen because I just wanted to show you. There's a small map here, and it has a few states. So this is Vermont, Maryland, and California that are three states that explicitly allow non-citizen voting in state or local elections. Still, the vast majority of them don't allow it. There's a few states with no impediments to non-citizen voting. That's New Mexico, Nevada, Washington, South Dakota, Illinois, and in Arkansas. What's this? And New Jersey. And Rhode Island. So there's a few that have nothing preventing them. And then the other ones, that's Idaho, Iowa, Oklahoma, is that Minnesota? No, what's this? Wisconsin, Missouri. So either way, there's all those states that are that non-citizen voting is on their 2024 election ballots. Like they're going to be voting on whether or not they're allowed to vote.
Non-citizen voting.
So there's 3 right now that explicitly allow it, California being one of them. And he was also, and Marcel was accurate in when he said that California was also one of the states that currently allows non-U.S. citizens to become police officers. One of the most deplorable and disgusting ideas I've ever heard of in my life. Okay. So there's one of the main things that made me want to...
I'm sorry. I didn't see what you were trying to show. I didn't see the map or anything.
Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that and I'm going to DM it to you on Twitter, so that way you can have access to it. You'll be able to see it in your DMs. But yeah, so there's 3 states currently that like explicitly allow non-citizens to vote in state and local elections. It's California, Maryland, and the third one was what was it?
Yeah, I would like to research that.
Right.
Because did they say why? What is the requirement? Like, I don't understand that. Why are they doing that? Allowing.
I mean, listen, for California, it makes sense. I think the largest, Black people only make up 10% of the state of California, whereas Hispanics make up a humongous portion of it. And so their vote is particularly important. And of course, because not every Hispanic person is an illegal immigrant or an immigrant at all, or a recent immigrant anyway. But it's the idea that that Hispanic people, because they make up such a humongous portion of the population, and a lot of their family members are immigrants and things like that, it's a particularly sensitive issue to them. So even broadening that up gives them more political power. So that's why
they historically don't vote, though.
They don't. That's the insane thing. Neither do Asians. Asians vote the least out of any immigrant population, yet they're the ones that get so much political power because they just are always assumed as non-threatening in the model minority. But the reason why I wanted to have this conversation was because you had expressed in the space, you had said that you felt that the Democrat Party had earned your vote. I don't want to debate that. I'm not going to argue with you. I just want to hear your perspective on how they earned your vote. And yeah, I just wanted you to share that with me. And I'm truly not trying to debate you. I just want to hear your thought process.
And it's not up for debate. It's just my experience. Okay. Now I must say that the Democratic Party, my sister got me involved in politics, and she was a Democrat, and so I went along. Okay. I've always looked at the Republicans like this is white supremacy on steroids over here. They really don't give a shit. Sorry about Black people. They believe that we deserve to die on the street. We should be judged by police officers on the street, not in court. And so what happened was my worldview, my country view was shaped because my very first job was working for the city of Los Angeles. And I was there for 18 years, and I worked in the community development department. Okay. One year, I think it was during the 80s or 90s maybe, can't remember, it's been a long time ago. They tried to defund our unit, our department.
Right.
The Republicans came in and said, "Oh, we don't need you guys." At the time, we had small business affairs unit. We had, of course, our seniors, welfare and living unit. We had Head Start. We had summer programs and summer jobs for youth. All these things, they were like, we don't need that. And they tried to defund our department, and we had to engage ourselves politically to stop that. The Democrats were the ones that were spearheading that. The Republicans were trying to take my job. Okay. Also, after I left the city, I didn't have health care. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm, trying to start a business, and I didn't have health care. And so when the affordable health care came into play, I volunteered and joined to make that a law, that we have affordable health care. I was a single mom. Me and my son had no health care, and he needed a specialist. So for me, guess what? The Democrats were offering that. It's something that I needed and a lot of other people. And so I did what I needed to do. I got on the phone. I organized with other people who wanted the same thing. We got on the phone. We wrote. We knocked on doors. We got that law passed. I remember being at the state party, inside of the state party offices, celebrating way into the middle of the night, because the vote took place at midnight in Capitol Hill.
Right.
So literally, and this was after midnight on the East Coast. So literally, we were there. And so when I say they earned my vote, it's because they spoke my language. I was in a position, I needed help, like a lot of people who are not wealthy need. And that's the majority of Americans need help. They need help with their wages. They need help with health care. They need help with child care, because all of these things are designed by predatory capitalists. Predatory capitalists are allowed to make our standard of living go down. And who fights those battles? The Democrats do. The Republicans don't fight those battles.
Right.
They say you don't need that. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Right. While we're pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, they're lying, stealing, killing. Am I right about it? I'm not being far-fetched. This is what they're doing. They're being lawless, but they're telling us you need to live by the law and pull yourself by your bootstraps. And this is the messaging we get, and you guys get to live fraudulently.
Okay.
I cannot in good conscience support. I don't know one policy that the Republicans have done, and I may be ignorant to it, but I don't know what policy they have done that has benefited the American public that earns less than $100,000 a year.
Okay, so one, I appreciate your lived experience, and I can imagine, having a son that needs the help, finding it through the Affordable Care Act. I could see how that would probably be a transformative thing. And at an individual level, I can understand that almost winning your vote, so to speak.
And then not only that, can I?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do.
It's okay. It's okay. Go ahead.
Not only that, during the Obama campaign, he made sure that we knew how the party was ran. He made sure we knew how to join the committees, how to run for office, how to run for committees. How I got appointed to citizens. It was called a citizens. I can't remember, but it was called a citizens board committee. The citizens board committee went over grant proposals, and they awarded nonprofits grant money to keep them going. And I was able to vote for some of the Black organizations that never got a look at. No one looked at them.
Right.
And I wouldn't have known these things if the Barack Obama campaign didn't recognize, when I came into his field office, they said, "We need you." They immediately turned me into a leader. they didn't ask no questions. They said, we need you to be a precinct captain. And then when it came down to it, when there weren't enough precinct captains, they asked me, will you be a super precinct captain and take 3 precincts? I said, fine, I have the time. They gave me the data. They gave me what I needed. They supported me. Okay. What I didn't like, they didn't hire me. I didn't like that. And I have told the Democratic Party to their faces, if you want the black vote, hire black people.
Right. I feel like they've taken it for granted. But
they have taken it for granted. I literally felt betrayed by the Democratic Party, but I cannot trust the Republicans to keep me alive.
Okay, but here's where my question comes.
They don't care if I die in the street. They don't care if my son dies in the street.
Right.
You should have obeyed the law.
Okay.
They do not care.
But so then explain to me, obviously you understand that like your perspective is very counter to, I would say, the majority of like perspective and stuff that we encounter in Twitter spaces and things like that. And we're hearing a lot more call-ins to like radio shows. I believe Breakfast Club recently did it, and they got call-ins from black people who were not very supportive of Kamala Harris. And I think there's just been a pretty broad expression of that same sentiment of betrayal from the Democrat Party and things like that. Where do you feel that the collective differs from your personal experience?
I know. Where do I say that again?
Oh, sorry. Where do you feel that the collective differs from your personal experience? For example, like just to like kind of elucidate that a little bit. So you're explaining that you were in desperate need of healthcare at the time. You were an entrepreneur.
I wasn't the only one. It was millions of people.
Of course, I'm not discrediting that from millions of people. However, despite that, there's still an overall sentiment, it feels like, of betrayal of the Democrat Party that we're constantly encountering from various people. Why do you think that, like, where is your experience? Where do you think the disconnect is for those people collectively?
Disconnect is that I am a party participator. I literally will go to their meetings. I literally will sign up to volunteer.
So you think working for the party would somehow change their sentiment to make them feel like the party did things to change their lives?
Yes, we need their voices.
Wait, no. Wait, we're expressing two different things. Because I agree with you that having like close proximity voices are like likely to influence the positions of the party, and maybe they might change the outcomes. Right? I agree with you there. But I'm asking you, if those voices aren't there, and so then the party is not doing the changes that are necessary. Do you get why there would be a disconnect there?
I get why there's a disconnect, and maybe I am not understanding exactly what you're asking of me, but the disconnect to me is that they only listen to who's involved. And even though they see us and they know that, they go by a system.
So then you're providing an explanation for why they haven't created substantial change in the lives of the people of the.
They believe they have. They believe they have.
Okay.
So they don't believe that we are, and it's wrong. They should not think that way.
But Kamala Harris expresses that she knows it, doesn't she?
She expresses that she knows it. And it's the same thing with Barack Obama. They're trying to figure out, how do I do this when black people don't show up?
When you say black people don't show up, what do you mean?
They're talking the ones that are complaining, there's a disconnect. Yes. And now we're going to get into the boule, the black people that have engaged themselves in the process. And then there's the black people that have not engaged themselves in the process. If you don't engage yourself in the process, they don't hear you. You
Okay.
don't count.
I
And so they'll say buzzwords like working families and middle class,
or black and brown
it,
people.
black. So if you don't fall into their categories,
But black people
you don't
do.
count.
Black people are predominantly working class. Black people are significantly lower, overrepresented within poverty. Black people are obviously working families. I mean, black people are the minorities that they're
Yeah.
constantly talking about. Literally, we're in the name black and brown people. So they're aware of our plight. And when Kamala Harris was asked about all of those different things, and she can lay it off. Okay, you got this many years of slavery, this many years of Jim Crow, this many years of segregation, this many years of de facto segregation, this many years of continued oppression, and so she lists all the problems. I don't feel it's fair to give her the excuse, or any of the party
No
the
excuse.
excuse that they don't know. They're aware.
I don't give her any excuses. None.
So then,
but I do support her.
I get that. So, but then do you think that maybe that might be the disconnect? Do you feel that the people who are aware, that she's aware of the problems that the collective are facing, and that she has been tone deaf when it came to solutions regarding that collective, as was Biden, as was Obama? Do you think that what they're saying is fair, or do you feel like that's not fair?
I think it's unfair because she has not been in the position.
She's the vice president.
Vice president is not.
Got you. Not her. What about Obama? What about Biden? Would you say that it's fair of them to have that assessment about those two?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then for
the betrayal
them,
is there.
So then for them, they would feel that the Democrat Party has not earned their vote, and you feel like that's
so. How has the Republican Party earned their vote?
Oh, I believe that
they have done zero.
Oh, they've done worse than that. They've actually opposed.
They have done -0.
Right. They've done negative. Now, okay, but
so it does not make. It's not logical to me.
Wait, hold on. We're talking two different things. No, I'm not.
You're requiring.
No. I'm not doing that, and here's why. Because if I gave my allegiance to the Republican Party, then you would be able to say I'm being unfair by requiring something of the Democrat Party that I'm not giving to the Republican, or that I'm not, requiring of the Republican Party. But if I hold the belief that I do not respect, tolerate, endorse the Republican Party, while simultaneously realizing that the Democrat Party hasn't done anything to earn my vote, then that's not unfair, and that's where I stand. So then, do you feel like, and I feel like there's a lot of people, like it was trending, where they're saying vote couch, right? Where they're saying that they have no intention of voting. So I would say then there's a disconnect between you and them, in the sense that you would say that they've earned your vote because of the personal experiences and the things that you've needed, that they've come through for, which I will not discredit at all. But I would say as a collective, if people feel disenfranchised and unheard by those two previous Democrat presidents, then I feel like that's where I'm saying there's a disconnect, because your individual experience is obviously in contrast with the experience of the general collective.
Right. And my individual experience is what it is because I engaged myself. And that is the difference between me and them. I believe that people engage themselves, and I don't care if it's the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Engage yourself so that you can understand how these things are happening. And you can see who is getting the juice, who is in their ear. We used to know when they were coming into the airport. Guess what? We'd be right there at the airport, like, listen, I have a problem with this.
Do you feel,
okay?
But
we knew their staff people.
But would it be fair to not have to work for the party that's asking for my vote, Because I feel like to tell someone the only way that I can criticize or feel betrayed by a party that has spent the vast majority of its talking points pandering to my interests and garnering the vote of the majority of my people, I think there's an expectation that comes with that vote. And so if they don't, then wouldn't that, I feel like I'm debating you now and I didn't want to do that. So let's stop.
No, you're helping me.
I really want this more to be explorative than a debate. So let me, I got to change my gears.
I didn't feel like it was debatable. I felt like that was your opinion.
Right.
Which is a good opinion. Keep going with that, please.
I appreciate that. Okay. So I would say then, if I think the requirement that I have to work for you, I feel is unfair if you've already been able to capitalize on the majority of my people. So if the majority of black people have given you undoubted, unabated loyalty, such that we've showed out. Because when black people showed out for Barack Obama, the numbers were absurd. More so than any other minority demographic by a long shot. More so than Asians, more so than Native Americans, more so than Hispanics, more so than anyone else by a long shot. To the highest concentration. I mean, literally when you have like 90% plus of black women voting for Obama and over like 70% plus of black men voting for Obama, then it feels like, wait a minute, we have shown up. In the margins, we've been there to carry your vote. California was a red state prior to the riots. The riots that happened over Rodney King, that changed everything. So, and from that point, what the biggest outcome change from those riots was the mobilization of black voters. It turned the black vote out in ways that had never been seen before, and the state has remained blue from that day forward. So I would say that black people showed out there and showed up specifically for this specific party. So then at this point, I feel like it's almost like a movement of the goalpost to say, well, yes, you came out and you vote more so than anyone else. Yes, we can solely give you the credit for having our backs and putting us in office, for sure. Or maybe solely is not fair. Disproportionately give you that credit. We can say without you, it wasn't possible. And so you can count on us as you have. We've given you the desired outcome in the sense of showing up for you. And you've even gotten a benefit to that outcome because there has been no accountability despite that outcome. And then, when it comes time now, when we're saying, okay, we are disgruntled with the outcome for us, given the power that we've given you, then we move the goalpost to, well, no, now you need to get directly involved with the campaign. That feels unfair.
So you said something before it disappears out of my head. You said that, why should I have to work for the party? I wasn't working for the party. I saw their policy and I said, I want that policy enacted so me and my son can get health care. Who was doing the policy? The Democrats. Who was against the policy? The Republicans. So why in the world would I go talk to them? They were trying to kill me as far as I'm concerned, early. They were trying to kill my son early.
Right.
And this is how I, as a black woman, looks at the Republican Party. They are trying to kill me and mine. Murder.
Okay.
And I am not being far-fetched. They allow it with their gun law, with their NRA and their love of guns, and not being able to think of a way to keep kids safe in schools without involving more guns. Now, next thing you know, kids will be carrying guns in their backpack because we have to protect ourselves. Come on. To me, the bottom line is the Republicans are trying to murder me. Okay. That's how I feel. Murder me dead. Not kill me softly like the Democrats.
Okay, so So then here's the
It's
deal.
funny to me.
But I don't disagree with you, by the way. I believe that the Republican Party have demonstrated that they have ill intent, without a doubt. But I feel like the Democrat Party has done
They
that as
want black
well.
people dead, all of us.
But okay, would you feel like that same intent is exemplified in the crime bill that was passed by Bill Clinton and drafted by Joe Biden?
Let's talk about that.
Do you feel like it's fair to say
Biden wrote the crime bill? He was a author, the author of the crime bill. I don't know if that's true. I'm sorry, I did not do my research.
he said he did it himself? He said he drafted
so
that
he
bill.
was the author.
Right.
But guess who co-authored and co-signed it? The freaking Black Caucus.
Nope.
Yes, they did.
Okay, if you'll indulge me, it should maybe take about 3 minutes. Let me just set the record straight on that, because that is a common talking point and a common belief, but it isn't exactly true.
I was there, so you can't tell me. I was there screaming at the TV saying, Maxine Waters, all of y'all, why in the world are you supporting this?
Okay, then stop me if I'm wrong, or if you feel like anything I'm saying is not true. Okay, and I'm gonna paint the picture. So at the time, yes, there was unprecedented crime, the epidemic of drugs and things like that, and violent and gang violence and things like that was actually impacting the black community.
Black on black crime.
Right. Well, I hate that phrase, but yes, that was impacting the black community. During that time, black people were largely asking for reform and assistance in dealing with some of the criminality and drug problems within the community. The things that they asked for were better rehabilitation programs, better after school programs and things for school, police reform, additional funding for education. Those
Who
were
asked that?
Black people, largely the community.
I said the Black Caucus.
I know. So hold on. I want you to stop me when I say something that's not true.
Okay.
Because I'm going to get to the Black Caucus. But right now, I feel like I just said something that's very true. Do you agree with that part so far?
I know what we were asking for. You're right.
So that is what the black community called for. Thank you. Yeah. So now, in response to that, Biden ended up drafting the police reform bill.
Yes.
The crime bill. And when he drafted the crime bill, the immediate response from the Black Caucus was that they disliked the bill. So much so that the Black Caucus drafted a separate, distinct, contrary bill. A bill to compete with Biden's crime bill, because they did not like that bill. Once they did a separate, distinct, contrary bill that contrasted Biden's bill, the Republicans then said, we're going to draft our own bill that is going to be way worse if you don't agree with this one, Biden's bill. At this point, because of the fact that they did not want to deal with a possibly more draconian bill by the Republican Party, who said they were going to go further than what Biden had done, which they already complained about, then at that point, the Black Caucus reluctantly agreed to this bill, and even upon doing so, while they finally agreed reluctantly, they voiced and vocalized their opposition to the bill as they signed it, which they only signed out of fear of what the Republicans would do if this bill didn't go through. Now, which part of what I said wasn't true?
And there you have it. The Republicans.
I get you. Was anything I said untrue?
Of the crime bill, but they try and say it was Biden.
No, hold on. Was there anything that I said that wasn't true?
I don't know. I don't remember it like that. But as I don't doubt that it is the truth. It sounds very truthful.
Okay,
but
then if that's the case,
they still had choices, and they still voted yes. They should have said no.
They
should have just said no, and then they should have went back and forth. They would have had to have the vote. So I don't know how all the vote dynamics went down on that. All I know is the Black Caucus voted yes for that bullshit.
Reluctantly and eventually, and out of fear of a different bill. But I don't
remember it like that.
I do.
Actually remember them telling us and encouraging us to support it.
Okay, we
were encouraged.
I can show you where they originally stopped you, where they originally discouraged that.
At that time, I was not that studied.
I
Um,
was 12.
I
I only know this from history, from reading up on it myself. But here's the thing. First off, I think it's unfair to characterize that as the Republicans' fault. Because if a Democrat is the person who drafted the bill,
Republicans strategized that.
how does it?
They loved the bill. They actually loved the bill. But what they did was backdoor the black people into voting for it by saying, we'll give you an even worse bill.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Republicans is something else.
Wait, hold on. I see, and I feel like we have to be completely honest. How do we hold the Republicans responsible for a bill drafted, passed, and introduced by Democrats?
What did you just say they did? They said if you don't sign it, they basically blackmailed the black people.
Right.
If you don't sign it, if you don't sign Biden's bill, we're going to give you an even worse bill.
Okay, do you feel like that can be characterized fairly as the
they meant it. And
okay,
guess what?
I guess
you. They believe them.
Do you feel like that can be characterized fairly as them enforcing the bill? Would you feel like that would be fair to say Republicans enforced that bill?
It would be fair to say that they tricked them.
Sure. And by tricking them, thereby enforcing that bill, would that be fair to say?
They forced their hand, yes.
Right. So forcing their hand would be enforcing that bill?
They voted for it too.
Right. So they voted for it and then threatened them that if they didn't do it, that they would do something worse, thereby enforcing that bill?
Came against the black people and made a jacked up bill to hurt black people. That's what happened.
So then would it be fair to say Republicans enforced that bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So then how is it then, okay, we're going to hold the people who enforced something more responsible than the people who created it and passed it in the first place?
Me, myself, I hold white people responsible.
But you've been giving the credit to the Republican Party all this time.
Together, and I say this was some white people shit.
But that's reductive. But don't you feel like that's reductive to dismiss the role of the person who created and passed it?
I didn't dismiss him.
Well, you are if you keep saying the Republicans did it and not the
Republicans and the Democrats did it. I guess you didn't hear what I was really saying. The Republicans and the Democrats. The white people got together because they think alike, and they came up with a crime bill that was going to hurt black people.
Okay.
It was white versus black. They think alike.
Okay. So
I when Biden ran in 2020, I was telling people don't vote for him. He's a colonizer.
Okay, but then if you feel that way, then why is it up until now you had been primarily labeling it as Republican opposition, Republican problems, and not realizing that it was both sides that did that? Okay, then you know what? That's my fault.
That's not my record.
Okay, then let me fix my face, and we can just go and correct the narrative here. I understand. I was going off of the conversations that we've had thus far, but I'm willing to update myself. So then, in this case, then we can say that the Democrat Party, right, were the ones, the originators of the bill, the drafters of the bill, and the passers of the bill, and that the Republicans also had a hand in it. So then I can say, I think it would be fair of me to say that the Democrats are more responsible for that individual bill than the Republicans, considering they drafted, had the power, and passed it. Whereas the Republicans, I would say, are also responsible for basically threatening the holdouts in the Democrat Party into capitulating. So I would say that they have some responsibility, but the predominant responsible party would be the ones who created, originated, drafted, and passed that bill. Is that fair?
Yeah, I understand. Fair to you, but to me, it was white people getting together to hurt black people.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree. I think white supremacy is always at the heart of it, but that's a reductive way when we're talking about specifically about the parties, though.
Right. I absolutely get what you're saying. Yes, that could be a true statement. They were more responsible because they came up with it. But the Republicans co-signed it and say you might as well take that, or we're going to give you something far worse.
Right.
So we're going to do mass incarceration times 20.
Right. So that's why I would hold.
And we're going to give the police immunity because the Fraternal Order of Police. Are you familiar with them? Mm-hmm. That's the police gang.
Yep. We have those all over the state of California.
And give them the ability. And I met with them when I ran for office in Nevada. I met with them in a freaking warehouse by myself because I did not know.
Dangerous work.
I did not know. And had an interview with them and presented my case. I said, I believe that the police should be keeping the peace.
They should be peace officers.
I appreciate the police that come to my neighborhood and see about my community.
Right.
I don't appreciate the police that come to my neighborhood and do things that harm my community. I had to watch what I was saying because there was a bunch of white men. I didn't know where I was going. They gave me the address. I ended up at a warehouse.
That sounds dangerous.
With the Fraternal Order of Police in Nevada.
So,
and you know what? After that meeting, they endorsed me. I didn't accept it and I didn't put it on my website.
Right.
After I found out by some of the black elected officials that were not elected officials, community members that I respected, that were doing the hard work, informed me of who they really were. So they were trying to put a target on me and say that I was down with the Fraternal Order as a black woman. And somebody pulled my coattail.
Right. So here's the deal. I want you to understand this, though, just to make sure that everything is kind of wrapped up in conclusion. I would say that those actions, not just the crime bill, but also the removing of the Pell Grant and the welfare reform acts by Bill Clinton, I would say that those three things in and of themselves hurt the black community pretty dramatically, right? So with that being said, I would say that Bill Clinton didn't do anything to earn the black vote. Then I would move on to say that Barack Obama, who was the very next Democratic president, that person did not do, I can't think of anything he did specifically for black Americans, and I don't believe that we got benefited, like as a whole, with his presidency. And the reason why I would say that is because I don't feel that he did enough to rectify the housing crisis, which disproportionately hurt black people.
And that was one of the things that I advocated for.
Right.
The housing.
Right.
Yeah.
And he didn't fix that. And so I would say because of his silence on some of the more predominant issues of police brutality and things where he said he couldn't speak on it because there was an ongoing investigation, as if some sort of way that prevented or precluded him from being able to speak on it, which is completely unfounded. So I would say that he didn't earn the black vote.
I'm not mad at him.
I am. I would say he didn't earn the black vote, and I wouldn't.
His life was threatened, and that of his wife and his children.
Okay, so then if yours,
that's real.
Okay, so
he was shot at. He was shot at.
Okay, then
at the White House.
Right. So then you're saying because he was shot at, then he put the interests of his family over all black people, despite the Secret Service and having the protection that he did. And so then at that point, I would say that would be a disqualifying thing for me. You did not earn my vote if you do not put black interests at the center of your intention.
Wouldn't know unless you're in that position, sir.
I listen.
It wasn't just coming from that bullet that hit the patio.
Okay, but I'm not saying. Listen, I'm not making this statement.
It wasn't.
I don't have to be in that situation.
I'm just saying.
I get you. I'm just saying. I'm evaluating the outcome. And if what your choices,
you guys take a lot of things for granted. You people, some of you guys take.
I don't think I'm taking anything for granted. I'm assessing
people that don't like Obama, don't like Kamala, because they're not black enough.
I didn't say that. Never.
They're in a white system. This is their country.
I didn't say Obama wasn't black enough.
I thought they were extra black.
But hold on. That's a straw man, because I want you to understand, I'm not saying, I haven't said in this conversation, nor have I ever said that Obama wasn't black enough. What I stated was the outcome of his presidency were worse conditions overall for black Americans.
That is not true.
Okay, so then let's talk about the wealth gap in the country.
It's pretty much the same.
Wait, hold on. No. I can pull up.
Didn't move the needle much.
I can pull up a graph for you. Over the 8 years of Obama's presidency, the wealth gap increased. So he did not do anything. I said the wealth gap. I can pull it up for you. The wealth gap increased under Obama's presidency, meaning that over that 8-year period, he did nothing to alleviate that. And that is one of the gravest. Right, that's 8 years. That's his entire presidency. That's 2 terms, the longest amount of time.
Erase wealth gap.
I'm not asking.
In 8 years.
No one asked you to erase, but he didn't do anything to mitigate it. In fact, it got worse.
True. And I'm gonna tell you why it's not true.
If he did things to mitigate it, why did it get worse during his presidency?
What he did was he inspired black Americans to go back to school, get your degree.
Did that fix the wealth gap?
So that you can get a good paying job. And a lot of black Americans went back to school. They didn't just go back to school. They went to law school. They went to medical school.
Would you say would you say
these are systems of wealth that you really can't discriminate?
I hear that. Is that the minority or the majority of black people, would you say?
I would say a great majority of the people that listen to him.
Wait, no. That's not what I asked.
Went to law school.
That's not what I asked. I'm sorry. Please be fair. Was it the majority of black people or the minority of black people?
The majority of black people that listen to him. That's what I'm saying.
But the majority of black people didn't listen to him, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
No, that's what I'm asking. Was it the majority of black people, not the majority that listened to him? I'm asking.
I don't know. I'm not going to get twisted up in that. I'm saying what I'm saying.
No, but I'm asking a question.
You're saying that he did not do anything. How could you say not do anything?
I'm sorry. Let me
made sure we had affordable health care.
Let me change my words. Please. Let me change my words then. I'm not going to say he didn't do anything to try to mitigate the wealth gap.
And that's what people are saying.
I got you. I know, but I don't want to be responsible for other people. I only want to be responsible for me. And so what I'm saying is he was ineffective at reducing or mitigating the wealth gap. That's what I'm saying. Okay, then
it created more professionals.
So if I show the numbers and the wealth gap increased, then I think that it's fair to say that he was ineffective at mitigating it then. Right?
What's the source? Can you tell me the source?
Let me find it. Probably Pew Research.
Okay. That's good. I go by Pew Research. And I'm very disappointed. I was very disappointed in Barack Obama because I worked tirelessly to get him elected. I was one of the first black Nevadans to even say, please take a look at Barack Obama. Joe Biden was my first choice just by his resume and listen to him speak at his speeches and how he would speak to everyone. Everyone's coming up if I'm elected. Everyone.
Here, I'm DMing you another graph right now. It demonstrates the wealth gap. You go down to the very first link. You go down to the very first graph. You can mouse over and it'll show you the time by year. I think Barack Obama took office in 2008. Right? And at quarter, in the first quarter of 2008, you see that the wealth gap was 56.04 trillion. By 2010 or 2009, I think is where it got its smallest during his presidency. It went to 48.88. By the end of his first term, right, or by quarter one of his second term, 2012, at that point it was higher. It was at 57.191, and then by the time we got to term number, the end of his presidency, 2016, it was 73. So it increased dramatically under his presidency. So I don't think it's fair to make the statement that he did something that was effective at mitigating the wealth gap. Now you can try to tell me
he inspired so many people to go back to school.
Inspiration wasn't.
So many small. I'm not. He
Miss
inspired
Miss
so many small
CJ.
businesses. He inspired Black people. Just because he didn't inspire the 1,000 people on Twitter to do shit with their life doesn't mean that he didn't do inspire people to come up.
Miss CJ, was the inspiration effective at
It was
no, 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 no,
effective.
no. You got to hear the full question, please. Was
Hmm.
the inspiration effective at mitigating the wealth gap?
I haven't looked at the data,
I
so I
just sent it
can't
to you.
answer.
You just looked at it just now. I showed it to you.
I did. I don't have it. I can't. Can I look at it right now?
Yes, ma'am. It's in your DMs.
Okay. All right. Let me look at it. And I mean, I just don't have time to extrapolate and really look at it. And I'm not trying not to.
Yeah, ma'am, it's a very, very simple
I
graph.
believe you believe what you're saying, but I just don't have enough data. And I thank you for sending that to me. But in this conversation right now that we're on, if you want me to take time to look at it, I will.
Listen, I think this is
You
always
want
what
me to take time to look at it right now?
I mean, I think it shouldn't take long because the graph is literally the very first graph on the thing. It shouldn't take very long.
Okay, but I do my research is I have to corroborate that with other research.
I get you.
It can't just come from one source.
Yes, ma'am. This is from Brookings EDU. If you want me to find you a second source, I can do that. I don't think that this is controversial information. I don't think this is like esoteric information. I think it would be agreed.
I don't trust one source. I just don't.
Sure. Yes, ma'am. I don't.
That's just how I am.
Yes, ma'am. I'll find you a second source. It shouldn't be long. Every source is going to corroborate this. There is a plurality of data that clearly suggests that the wealth gap increased under Obama's presidency. This isn't like some secret information.
And I wonder who did the data and who did they ask and where did they get the data from? Where'd they get it from?
From the census.
And I wonder if it was white people that did it.
Okay. Well, listen.
We can't trust.
All right, look.
Because they hated Obama's ass.
Okay, I hear you. So listen, I feel like
and that's just how I feel about it.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't trust. I don't. I use Pew. I go to Pew Research. I like them. They have been pretty good with their data and their collection of it. But moving where we are currently, I don't know who's doing the data now because we have so many liars and fraudulent people involved in the system. And that's just how I feel about it. I don't know who to trust.
And you feel like Brookings Institute would use falsified information?
Do you know them personally? Do you know who's behind them?
Okay.
Brookings? Really?
Okay.
Do you?
But wait, I'm sorry. You said you trust. You trust.
It could be owned by Elon Musk. You don't know.
Okay. You said you trust Pew Research Center, right?
I said I did trust them, and I used to use them. I used to sort them as a source, cite them as a source.
But you don't trust them anymore?
No.
Okay.
Ever since Trump came aboard into the political realm, I do not trust white people's data. They don't survey us.
Okay. Listen, I want you to understand.
They leave us out of the equation.
I hear you.
Did they use HBCU data?
Okay. I'm unfortunately unable. I don't believe that I would be able to provide you with the source that you would be readily accept this information, which kind of leads us to an impasse. But I would like to say that we've had a great conversation. Even if we're not going to agree about everything, I think we've explored quite a bit. So at this point, I would like you to give your final thoughts, like kind of like your final spiel on why you feel the Democrat Party earned your vote. And from there, I'll let you have the last word. Okay.
The Democratic Party has earned my vote by default because I absolutely believe the Republicans want to murder me and my community. They want to wipe us, purge. And I mean that with all seriousness. They are savages historically. White racist system that we come from is a white racist savage system that we live in. Please understand, they don't want us to live. They want to be us because we have flavor and they do not. And they know that. Historically, Black people taught them how to bathe, how to build, how to farm. Every single thing that they figured out to do came from them observing us, taking from us, stealing from us, murdering us. And the Republican Party represents that. They don't represent nothing else. They do not. They haven't put one policy up to help American people with their wages, with staying alive, with raising their families, protecting everyone, not just white people. Republicans don't care about that. And so Democrats, by default, have earned my vote. I believe that the more of us vote for Democrats, the more we are able to push white supremacy and suppress it. We're not going to get rid of it, but we can suppress it if we have like-minded people working to suppress that. And so that's why, understand, by default, they have earned my vote. I will be voting Democrat down the entire ticket. I know who I'm voting for. If I don't know the judge, I'm not voting for them. Okay? I have to have met you to vote for you. Seriously. And that's what I do. I have met Joe Biden before. I have met Kamala Harris before. Every person that I have voted for, I have met them. And I'm not playing. I don't know how to reach out to a Republican. Seeing that they are standing next to a career criminal who believes he's above the law and has shown us that he is. And so if people don't understand that, can't help them. I don't care how you vote. I'm with the millions of people, the 8 million more that voted for Joe Biden and the Democrats than I am with the Republicans. And they did that for a reason, because they do understand that the Republican Party are a murderous, savage group. They are the original savages. And that's what they represent. And people need to understand that.
Okay, listen, I appreciate you for sharing your perspective. When we disagree, sometimes things can get passionate, but I feel like overall this conversation was respectful, and I think it would be great if we could talk again some other time and explore more of these ideas.
I would love to.
I gave you both of those studies. They're in your DMs. You can look at them at another times, and if you can, I encourage you to also look at Pew Research, which will corroborate that data. Again, I think I've never heard of this even being contested by either party. So it seems like it's pretty consistent.
Party.
Right. I'm just because that's the paradigm that we're speaking from. But I haven't heard it.
As long
I haven't heard it
as
contested
white people are in charge.
I haven't heard it contested by HBCUs or anyone else either. So with that being said, it feels like this is some pretty solid information. Of course, we all know from our own personal lived experiences and the experiences of our loved ones and things like that, we can see that there's obviously a difference, right? Like, I mean, just in general for Black folks, even if we as individuals might be doing particularly well, we know too many Black people who aren't. So with that being said, I look forward to being able to talk to you again. You just let me know when, and I'll be around. I appreciate you for having the conversation.
Hope that you charged my passion to my heart.
Yeah, we're fine. We're totally fine.
Not my head, because I'm very passionate about these things. I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I want to know, did I go too far with that? Because I don't think I did.
You did not. You express your views. You express your views respectfully. You're totally fine.
Do you feel safe?
Of course. Wait. Of course I feel safe. What? We're having a conversation. You were fine.
Do you feel safe with white people in charge of every damn thing?
Hold up. I don't feel like white people are in charge of everything. I think God's in charge ultimately.
Everything important.
I think God's in charge. I'm okay. I'm gonna
God
feel
is,
safe
God
because
is
of that.
that we agree on.
There we go.
God is in charge.
That's it. I'm gonna always be safe.